Have you ever wondered why two gardeners can experience the same scorching heatwave, yet one harvests baskets of healthy vegetables while the other watches tomatoes crack, cucumbers wilt, and lettuce collapse? The surprising answer is that it usually isn't about who uses more water. In fact, many gardeners lose a large part of their harvest because they water too often, at the wrong time, or in the wrong way. During extreme heat, plants are under enormous stress. The sun heats the soil, moisture evaporates rapidly, and leaves lose water through tiny pores called stomata. Many people assume the solution is simple: just water every day, sometimes even twice a day. But that common habit can create shallow roots, encourage disease, waste huge amounts of water, and actually make plants less able to survive the heat. The healthiest gardens are rarely the ones receiving the most water. They're the ones receiving the right amount, at the right time, delivered exactly where plants need it. Today, we're going to explore the science behind watering during extreme heat, explain how different vegetables respond to high temperatures, uncover the mistakes even experienced gardeners sometimes make, and show you practical methods that can help your plants stay healthy while producing larger harvests even during the hottest weeks of summer. Let's begin with what actually happens inside a plant when temperatures soar. When air temperatures climb above about 86 degrees Fahrenheit, or 30 degrees Celsius, many vegetable crops begin changing how they function. Water moves from the roots through the stems and into the leaves, where tiny openings release moisture into the air. This process, known as transpiration, cools the plant much like sweating cools our bodies. As temperatures rise, transpiration speeds up dramatically. The problem is that if roots cannot replace water as quickly as leaves lose it, the plant enters water stress. One of the first responses is closing the stomata. This slows water loss but also reduces the intake of carbon dioxide, which plants need for photosynthesis. Less photosynthesis means less energy for producing flowers, fruits, roots, and leaves. This explains why plants may survive a heatwave but produce disappointing harvests afterward. The stress doesn't always kill the plant, it often reduces productivity instead. Here's an interesting fact. A vegetable garden can lose more water through evaporation and transpiration combined than many people realize. During hot, dry, windy weather, several inches of water may disappear from the soil over a relatively short period. That doesn't necessarily mean every plant needs constant watering, but it does explain why moisture management becomes so important. Now let's talk about the biggest question every gardener asks. What is the best time to water? For most vegetables, early morning is by far the best choice. Watering shortly after sunrise gives plants time to fully hydrate before temperatures climb. Leaves that accidentally become wet usually dry quickly, reducing disease risk. The soil absorbs moisture, while evaporation remains relatively low, allowing water to reach the root zone instead of disappearing into the air. Morning watering also prepares plants for the hottest part of the day, when transpiration reaches its peak. What about evening watering? It can work, especially during severe heat or water restrictions, but there are some precautions. If leaves remain wet overnight, fungal diseases may become more likely in humid climates. The solution is simple: apply water directly to the soil rather than spraying foliage. Midday watering often receives mixed opinions. Many gardeners have heard the myth that water droplets burn leaves like tiny magnifying glasses. Under normal garden conditions, research has shown this is generally not true. However, watering in the middle of a blazing afternoon is still inefficient because evaporation rates are highest. Much of the water disappears before reaching deeper roots. That said, if plants are severely wilting from extreme heat, and immediate watering is necessary to prevent damage, watering during the afternoon is far better than waiting until evening. Here's another practical insight. Temporary afternoon wilting does not always mean a plant needs water. Many vegetables naturally wilt slightly during intense heat, even when the soil still contains adequate moisture. If they recover by evening, their root systems are likely functioning normally. Before grabbing the hose, check the soil. Push your finger several inches into the ground. If the soil feels cool and moist below the surface, watering can often wait. This simple habit prevents one of the most common mistakes, watering based only on leaf appearance. Now let's discuss deep watering versus shallow watering. Imagine two tomato plants. One receives a light sprinkle every day. The other receives a thorough soaking every several days. Which develops stronger roots? The deeply watered plant almost always wins. Roots naturally grow toward moisture. When only the top inch of soil becomes wet, roots remain close to the surface where temperatures fluctuate dramatically and moisture disappears quickly. Deep watering encourages roots to grow farther down, where soil stays cooler and moisture lasts much longer. Plants with deeper root systems usually tolerate heat waves far better. However, shallow watering does have its place. Newly planted seedlings have small root systems near the surface. They often require lighter but more frequent watering until roots expand deeper into the soil. Once plants become established, gradually switching to deeper, less frequent watering usually creates stronger, more resilient crops. Now let's explore how soil type changes everything. If your garden has sandy soil, water drains rapidly. This means roots receive excellent oxygen, but moisture disappears quickly. Sandy gardens usually require more frequent watering because water simply doesn't remain available for long. Loamy soil is often considered ideal. It balances drainage with moisture retention, allowing roots to access water without remaining waterlogged. Clay soil behaves very differently. Water enters slowly but stays much longer. The challenge is avoiding runoff during irrigation. Instead of applying water quickly, it's often better to water slowly so moisture has time to soak into the ground. Many gardeners unknowingly apply water faster than clay soil can absorb it. The excess simply flows away instead of reaching plant roots. Here's a useful trick. Watch the water. If puddles begin forming, slow down the watering rate or pause briefly before continuing. Now let's talk about one of the simplest techniques for surviving extreme heat. Mulch. Experienced gardeners frequently describe mulch as one of the best investments a garden can receive. A layer of organic mulch such as straw, shredded leaves, untreated grass clippings that have dried slightly, or compost acts like insulation for the soil. It blocks direct sunlight. It reduces evaporation. It helps moderate soil temperatures. It slows weed growth, meaning fewer plants compete for precious moisture. Studies and practical growing experience consistently show that mulched soil often remains noticeably cooler than bare soil during hot weather. This cooler environment benefits both roots and beneficial soil organisms. The result is healthier plants using water more efficiently. Now let's compare watering methods. Drip irrigation is widely considered one of the most efficient systems available. Water travels slowly through tubing directly into the root zone. Very little evaporates. Leaves remain dry. Water waste is minimal. Commercial vegetable growers often rely on drip irrigation because it delivers consistent moisture while conserving water. Soaker hoses offer many of the same benefits. They release water gradually along their length, making them excellent for long garden rows. Hand watering with a watering can gives outstanding control. It works especially well for smaller gardens, containers, and newly transplanted vegetables. The downside is that it requires more time and consistency. Traditional sprinklers can be useful for lawns and some larger areas, but they're generally less efficient for vegetable gardens. Much of the water lands on leaves rather than roots. Wind increases water loss. Evaporation is higher. Sprinklers may also encourage foliar diseases if used late in the day. If sprinklers are your only option, early morning remains the best time. Here's something many gardeners overlook. Where the water lands matters just as much as how much you apply. Most vegetable roots actively absorb water from the soil surrounding the root zone. Water sitting on leaves contributes very little to hydration. Aim the water at the base of each plant whenever possible. Let's look at specific vegetables. Tomatoes appreciate deep, consistent watering. Allowing the soil to alternate between extremely dry and overly wet conditions can lead to cracking and blossom end rot, especially when calcium movement within the plant becomes disrupted by inconsistent moisture. Cucumbers contain large amounts of water themselves, so they require steady soil moisture during flowering and fruit development. Irregular watering often results in misshapen or bitter fruit. Peppers are somewhat more drought-tolerant than cucumbers but still benefit from deep watering. During fruit production, extreme drought may cause blossoms or small fruits to drop. Onions need consistent moisture while bulbs enlarge. Too little water during this stage can reduce bulb size significantly. However, watering is commonly reduced as harvest approaches so bulbs cure properly. Potatoes require reliable moisture while tubers develop underground. Large fluctuations in soil moisture can affect tuber quality and size. Carrots prefer evenly moist soil, especially while roots expand. Dry periods followed by heavy watering sometimes contribute to splitting. Leafy greens like lettuce, spinach, and Swiss chard have shallow root systems. During severe heat, they may require more frequent monitoring because the upper soil dries first. Beans generally tolerate moderate heat but produce better pods when moisture remains consistent. Summer squash and zucchini grow rapidly. Their large leaves lose considerable moisture through transpiration, making steady watering especially valuable during fruit production. Pumpkins and winter squash develop extensive root systems and often tolerate short dry periods. Better once established, though regular deep watering still supports larger harvests. Now here's another important point. The age of the plant matters. Young seedlings need regular moisture because their roots occupy only a small volume of soil. Established plants can often access water much deeper underground. Plants carrying heavy fruit also require more water than those still producing only leaves. Weather matters too. A windy day may increase water loss almost as much as higher temperatures. Low humidity accelerates evaporation. Cloudy days usually reduce plant water demand considerably. Successful gardeners adjust watering according to current conditions rather than following a rigid schedule. Let's discuss warning signs before plants suffer lasting damage. Early drought stress often appears as slight afternoon wilting, slower growth, curling leaves, or dull leaf color. Later symptoms include blossom drop, smaller fruits, leaf scorch, and reduced yields. Overwatering creates a different set of problems. Leaves may turn yellow while remaining soft. Growth slows. The soil stays constantly wet. Roots begin receiving less oxygen. Without oxygen, roots cannot function efficiently, even though plenty of water surrounds them. Ironically, an overwatered plant may appear wilted because damaged roots can no longer absorb moisture properly. Healthy roots need both water and air. Finding that balance is one of gardening's most valuable skills. Here's an interesting fact. Many vegetable roots extend much farther sideways than gardeners expect. Watering only a tiny circle directly against the stem may encourage roots to stay concentrated there. Watering a broader area encourages stronger root development throughout the surrounding soil. Commercial vegetable growers often focus on maintaining consistent soil moisture rather than reacting after plants become stressed. They know recovering from drought usually costs more growth than preventing stress in the first place. Another practical habit is observing your garden every morning. Walk slowly. Look at leaf color. Notice new growth. Check the soil beneath the mulch. Small changes become much easier to correct before they develop into serious problems. Now let's cover some of the biggest mistakes gardeners make during heat waves. Mistake number 1. Watering every evening without checking the soil. Plants don't all use water at the same rate. Mistake number 2. Giving plants tiny amounts every day. This often creates shallow root systems. Mistake number 3. Soaking leaves instead of roots. Mistake number 4. Forgetting mulch. Bare soil loses moisture surprisingly fast. Mistake number 5. following a fixed calendar instead of responding to actual weather conditions. Mistake number 6, assuming every wilted plant needs immediate watering. Always check soil moisture first. Mistake number 7, flooding heavy clay soil faster than it can absorb water. Slow irrigation nearly always performs better. Here's one final insight from experienced growers. Consistency usually beats perfection. Plants adapt remarkably well when moisture remains reasonably stable. Large swings between drought and flooding create much greater stress than slightly imperfect. Watering schedules. As temperatures continue rising in many regions, learning efficient watering becomes one of the most valuable gardening skills anyone can develop. Fortunately, the principles are surprisingly simple. Water deeply whenever possible. Water early in the morning. Aim for the root zone. Adjust for soil type. Protect the soil with mulch. Watch your plants instead of the calendar. Recognize early signs of both drought and overwatering. Match your watering to the crop, its growth stage, and current weather. Remember that healthy roots grow where moisture is consistently available, not where the surface receives daily sprinkles. When you understand how plants actually use water, every drop becomes more effective. Your vegetables stay cooler. Roots grow stronger. Flowers develop into fruits more reliably. Harvests become larger and healthier, even during challenging heat waves. The next time temperatures soar, resist the temptation to simply turn on the hose for longer. Instead, water with purpose, using the methods you've learned today. Your garden won't just survive the heat, it will have the best possible chance to keep growing, producing, and rewarding you with abundant harvests all season long.